So, infesting hordes. You were talking about like these are they're a new type of horde. Well, actually, I don't know if they're actually that new. We did have a version of them that were just hidden before, but basically, these are hordes that are going and actually trying to create infestation. So, how do they actually work, Randy? How does an infesting horde decide where it's going, and how can the player tell what it's trying to do?
That's actually kind of related to your noise, your base noise, if you guys remember that.
Oh, yeah.
That is now kind of it's less about, triggering sieges, which was a random chance, to just trigger a mission that ran sieges based on noise levels. Now it's your base noise is going to determine how effective a plague heart can find your base. So every infestation has these kind of ticks where it decides what to do. If it tries to spread, if it tries to call in reinforcements and get stronger. I think the noisier you are, the more things kind of lend themselves towards finding you and literally creating infestations towards your base. So being stealthier, being quieter means that it has a little bit harder time trying to actually siege you or threaten you with sieges. But that's an aside. The infesting hordes, the way that they work is that the plague heart basically is going to narratively, he's collecting all the weird ambient zombies around him to try and create a little forward strike team to go and find your base and siege it. And that's what the infestations are now, is effectively just little bases for the plague heart to stockpile soldiers on their way to attacking your base, which is how you should be treating siege hordes or infestation hordes. They're always going to have a screamer in the middle, kind of wrangling them and controlling them and dictating where they're going. And that's definitely an easy point of dispersal if you're looking for it. I think we've also given quite a few of them bloaters, so that you can't just roll right over them in your car. You're gonna have to try and take some careful shots and manage them, but there's all sorts of tools in the game now to help you manage infesting hordes. But rather than have infestations just randomly pop up, we wanted to give you a way to fight the tide.
So whenever you see one of these hordes on the map, you can like mouse over it basically and sort of, does it name its destination? Like, can you tell where it's going?
It was a little bit hard. We experimented with that with the site names of like where they're going. It would tell you the exact site, but it would be things like, the Big Red Barn, which is a little bit difficult for players to unpack exactly where it is. So, it's less about. We did add a helpful little directional carrot on the infesting hordes for that reason, so you can kind of predict where they're going based on the map visuals.
Okay, yeah, that works. So, were there any problems trying to get the hordes to path properly? Because back when hordes were just there to wander around and cause trouble, it didn't matter that much where they were headed, and the player didn't have any expectations of where they were headed. But now it's really important that a horde start at a certain spot and get to a certain spot. What kind of work went into making sure that actually worked reliably?
Oh man. A lot.
You seem traumatized. You got like a 1,000-yard stare.
Yeah, no, I just remembered that. Did you know that the Falstack map has roughly 5 times as many navigational nodes as all our other maps?
And when he says Falstack, he's talking about the Trumbull Valley map, the Trumbull Valley core map. No, I did not know that. It is. I know that it is one of our more complex maps because it's basically adapted from a previous game that had entirely different constraints. We tried to replicate it.
That was a lot to untangle because basically what would happen is in spots where, if you ever look at a navigation tree on a video game, it's a bunch of straight lines and then little nodes, that the designer or whoever is putting down, and then the lines and the paths are all generated typically by the engine. The more densely you pack those nodes, the more chance that an AI is going to get lost when it's trying to pathfind, when it's saying, I'm on node A and I'm trying to get all the way over here. But in between me is a giant cluster of nodes. I've got to do all this math and all this potential to get lost and all this potential to wander halfway through and then forget my destination and then kind of You know, the more complex it is, the more chances for things to go wrong. And like you said previously, it wasn't like our zombies were really pathing around using these node networks for any real severe thing. I think they were mainly used for invisible zombies when we would need to, you know, send a zombie here or there. It wasn't really something that the player tracked. So we had to clean up a lot of the pathing manually, just node by node. There were a lot that were under terrain or disconnected or things. I just went on a fun little visual scavenger hunt for a while, pulling these things apart and untangling knots.
Brandon, was there when we were talking about, you know, infesting hordes wandering on the map, were there any funny bugs that emerged?
I think it's just the fact they keep going underground and testing that. It turned into a lot of like just staring at the map and just waiting, and we have like debug to speed up time, and so you just would get like hordes moving at like 10 times the regular speed, zooming all over the map, and I've did like, and then you see them get stuck at a place for maybe 5 seconds, which is then 5 times 50 is 500 seconds. You're like, why are they there? And then having to go in there and be like, Randy, look at these coordinates right here. They're getting stuck, and then just doing that for all 5 of the maps, and just jumping back and forth, and also making sure it wasn't due to like a noise, because noise can also affect that navigation.
Yep. We'd get a bunch of fun videos from QA of like a horde arrive, like getting near your base, stopping, vanishing from existence, and then reappearing somewhere completely incorrect, like that physically they can't even path to.
And
I think earlier was spawning. I think it would just like spawn, like it would not stop spawning hordes, so there would be on the map that would also just tank perf on top of that.
So your voice dropped out for a second. What would happen because they were spawning so many hordes?
It just wouldn't stop spawning them, so it would just be a string of like green icons going across the map,
like a caterpillar snaking from.
Your frame rate would just start immediately shuddering, and then by the time the snake made its way out onto a main road, you were pretty much in single-digit frames,
or just crashing.
Wow. Oh, that's. I'm glad you fixed that one. I definitely wouldn't want to. I mean, even if my frame rate could handle it, I wouldn't want to have to actually deal with that many hordes at the same time. All right, so let's get into infestations, because because once these infestation hordes that we've been talking about arrive at a place, they make an infestation. And now we've got there's some new UI surrounding infestations, and I don't know, are you sneaking up on an infestation now, Joe? Can you show us a little bit about what they look like on the map?
Okay, so you asked about withering infestations. I think this one's already withering because it came from the plague heart that I killed.
Gotcha.
And
okay.
Then these are not withering, and these are siege sites. So there are now 2 different types of infestations. One is siege sites, and then the other one's just these regular infestations like this.
Yeah, so we're going to get onto siege sites in just a second, but zoom in real quick on one of those infestations that's got a number by it, because I would love to sort of like let's remind everybody what these numbers mean. So you got a number 2 on that one. There's a 1 over on that gray withering one. Actually, both of those withering ones have got 1s on them. What does this number mean? Randy, do you want to take that?
Severity level. Yeah, I'm sorry. I was just watching Joe play.
Yeah, no, it's great.
I'm like, yeah, those are the severity levels. So every infestation, and including siege sites, which are just a type of infestation, they can have level 1, 2, or 3, and that just determines how big of an infestation it is. And what that number represents is how many siege hordes have arrived and are currently stashed at that location, or infesting hordes. So an infesting horde will come from Plague Heart, arrive at an uninfested spot, create a level 1 infestation. You'll see a 1. That infestation can choose to move to a new location or get a reinforcement. If it gets reinforcement, another infesting horde will come from the Plague Heart or maybe a nearby infestation, and then it will bump it up to a 2. The total zombies of 2 infesting hordes will now linger around that infestation, and then you get the same idea for a 3. By the time you get to 3, you're getting some crazy stuff. You got chances for juggernauts, and it gets real bad at an infestation 3.
So. Yeah, so in the earlier version of infestations would just sort of grow on their own. They didn't come from a plague heart. They weren't being orchestrated through hordes. But now, so that number, if that number is going to go up or down, that's entirely because hordes are entering and leaving. There isn't some other thing that's making them swell and shrink.
Correct. This will be based on like the conduction of zombies around the map. So you'll see if you have an infested site that has a 2 and there's a 1 that's closer to your base, that 2 may lose 1, go down to a 1, and then send a part of its payload to that new one and make that one a 2. So you'll see it kind of flow organically. Those numbers can go up and down, but you'll always see an infesting horde that it is either coming or going in order to make those numbers increase or decrease. So you can always intercept it.
So what are the rules for clearing an infestation now? Because those are different from the way they used to be.
So you can clear an infestation now by, like we were saying, narratively, the screamers are kind of like the zombie conductors. They're the ones managing on behalf of the play card. So if you take out the screamer and just kind of back away and leave, the infestation will disperse on its own. Those zombies will just kind of like disperse naturally back into the natural ambient population, more or less. And then, so if you're trying to strategically take out infestations because you're under real genuine threat, you can just take a long range weapon, pop the screamers. If it's an infestation severity 1, there's 1 screamer. If there's an infestation severity 2, there's 2. And guess what? For 3, there's 3. So it should be easy to remember and be like, oh, okay, I'm seeing what I'm doing. I'm having a real impact. This one is a 2. There's 2 screamers. Snipe, leave. Your base is no longer in threat from that side.
So, Brandon, as somebody who has to clear more infestations professionally than most people do even for fun, is it a relief not to have to hunt down that last missing zombie that you can't figure out where it is?
It's definitely nice. It just, in the past, knowing there could be one on the roof. But then they're also we also went and purposely made it to where you can't attract zombies out of the site to de-infest it. Because I remember that was a legitimate strategy before, throwing noisemakers, get them to leave.
Oh.
But then the design was like, no, that's a little bit too good.
So now they're all aware, I am part of this infestation, and...
Yeah, there's no walking off the job here.
Okay, that's cool. What about loot from fighting an infestation? There actually is a way to get loot from it now, aside from just looting the house afterwards.
Yeah, I think there's all non-screamer freaks will drop it's like the top tier loot table that it's spawned from. I've seen reports of a lot of good stuff they're dropping.
So non-screamers, that includes bloaters, ferals, and juggernauts, and all 3 of those will sometimes appear at infestations. When do they start showing up at different difficulty, at different severity levels?
Yeah, or sometimes even just ambiently.
Oh, you mean they might show up and join the infestation from the outside? Is that a thing?
Potentially.
Okay, cool. Well, that's I definitely I was testing this out in Lethal Zone, and I was running into these monsters all the time, but I couldn't tell if I was running to them because of the infestations or just because they were around. I have heard somebody said that infestations also raise the ambient spawn of zombies around them. Is that true?
I think that's actually one of the infestations have been an interesting system to work with, because I think that was always true. It was just really hard to tell.
Yeah, that's one of the problems with working on a game that has so much randomness to it. Is just you can't tell the difference between something being systemically different and you just having an unlucky day.
Right. One of the big reasons that we wanted to change infestations and sieges was just to make them a bit more obvious mechanically, to where the player could see and predict and interact with them a bit more, because they weren't really robust systems. I believe the way that it's worked is that infestations, when they're active, increase the ambient population, and then when you clear an infestation, there is a decrease in the nearby zombie population. So you do get a break in addition to clearing the infestation, lowering your set threat of siege, and the overall system being pushed back. You're also clearing out a little bit of pocket of safety for yourself.
Yeah, I think you can see there's a heat map on the map from previous updates that Zoe put in. There's a little shader.
Like a heat map, like a debug tool that you can use to sort of make sure that it's working right?
No, if you open the map, you can see a shade of red that if you kill, you're out, and that's a direct indication of zombie population.
I forgot all about that. Hey, Joe, do you want to open your map for just a second?
You can also see it on the minimap.
It's such a big game.
Not behind me, though.
Even the people that work on it are regularly peeling back layers that are astonishing.
Red heat map. This place mostly empty.
Okay, gotcha. So you can actually see that the map will get a little bit redder if you've got a lot of infestations in the space. That's pretty cool.